everyone. Thanks for making the time to join us on today's webinar. We're going to be discussing cybersecurity and cyber insurance for the small business environment. It's a particularly topic that I know a lot of members are wrestling with day to day. And so we thought it was a fantastic opportunity to have some very special guests. Tegan Gilchrist, who's the project director of the new CyberWardens program, which is a COSBOA initiative supported by the federal government. We've also got Holly Vanderloo, who's the head of corporate cyber at Marsh, to talk with us about cyber insurance and all the different aspects of how you can make sure that your business is properly protected. So we've got about half an hour as normal. I think with today we might just run a little bit over, but hopefully we'll keep it fairly tight. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A section that you'll see a button for below. And we'll try and answer as many of these as we can further on in the webinar. And if there are any that we don't get to, we'll also try and address those in the newsletter article later in the week. So welcome, Holly and Tegan, and thank you for giving us your valuable time to have a chat with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Fantastic. I'm going to start with you, if I can, Tegan, just to set the scene a little. Can you tell us a little bit about the whole CyberWardens program?
Yeah, thanks for having us today, Ben. CyberWardens is, as you mentioned, is an initiative of COSBOA, which is the Council of Small Business Organisations of Australia. And it's come about from a partnership with Telstra and CommBank and the Australian government. And it's all about making cybersecurity simple for small business. It's made for small business, by small business. So it gives you the lessons you need to help build a cyber safe culture in about 45 minutes through a free e-learning program.
That's fantastic, because I know many small businesses think they might be maybe too small to be a target of cyber attacks. Are small businesses targeted, and why are they targeted?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So we definitely see that attitude that comes through in all our research, that most small businesses think they're too small, that you don't have the sort of data that the big companies like Medibank or Optus have when you see those big names in the media. But about 43%, so almost half of cybercrime, is targeting small business. You'd be surprised at how much interesting information and data that you have in your business. And that's why we say there's a small business cyber criminal out there for every small business.
Okay, so you said about 43% are targeted. So what does that look like? How common would an attack on an average business be? Would a business see an attack once a year? Or I guess, why should small businesses be concerned?
Well, what we're seeing is there's a 13% increase in cybercrime every single year over the last sort of 3 years reported to the ACSC, and that is reported cybercrime. So reported crime is just really the tip of the iceberg of what we think is going on across Australia. The average attack in Australia costs a small business $46,000. But also really critically, the impact of that is about 30 hours where you have to shut down your business to try and get those cyber criminals out of your business. So it's really important that you think about how you'd survive with a $46,000 hit. Really sorry, there's a bit of crying going on in the background here.
That's all right.
And how else you could really survive if you had to shut your business down for that amount of time to be able to get them out of the business. Ben, could I just ask you to just maybe throw one quick question to Holly, and I'll be back in 2 minutes, if that's all right?
No, very happy to. Very happy to. We've Tegan, for everybody's benefit, has had some sick children who are at home with her. So I'm very happy to work on how we can adapt it during the program.
And I think it was really important what Tegan was saying around kind of those notified breaches that we're aware of, because a lot don't go notified. There is a lot of stigma that comes with cyber attacks, especially for businesses. So we don't always get for sure intel of who is actually experiencing these attacks. And sometimes attacks actually don't eventuate to anything as well. And it's just kind of taken on from the IT perspective that this is just kind of a day in, day out type of event for them. So from an insurer's perspective or insurance perspective, we do have a bit of intel around claims, and what we are seeing being who's been targeted, certain industries, and also we do have a little bit of data as around costing as well of cyber incidences. So we do see SMEs being very much attacked. You know, it's sometimes like a bit of a scattergun approach from these cyber criminals as well. So yeah, there are certain industries that are being targeted. So definitely professional services, healthcare is also a big one that we see as well. And then that just can trickle down to retail as well, which we know from your membership body also. So nobody's immune. There are certain industries that do get attacked. But we do see some data from the insurance side, but there is that stigma as well. So
yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I know a lot of our members that I talk to, sometimes they can be a little bit embarrassed about, you know, being the target of a cyber attack and don't necessarily want to report it.
Very much so. And yeah, it's a stigma, like we were just saying before as well, Ben, you know, everybody's aware of cyber, you know, everybody gets a text message, everybody, you know, seeing the scams and stuff like that. It's very much out there, but when it happens to you, there's still definitely a stigma. And from a business side as well, you know, it's kind of, people see it as a fault with the way that they operate. So.
No, absolutely. And if I can go back to you, Tegan, if that's okay.
I just introduced this my little assistant, Gwen. I'm very sorry for jumping on today. But...
That's all good. That's all good. You talked a little bit about the impact of a cyber attack, about the dollar amount and the amount of time it can take. Are there any other impacts that you think members should be aware of?
I think the two important other factors there are loss of important business information, because sometimes you can't recover it, particularly if you don't have strong backups. And of course, then the reputational impact. So it can really have a serious impact on your business. We know that a very large percentage of businesses after an attack do shut down in the next 6 months because they don't have the right recovery and insurance systems in place. And that's why, you know, doing courses like CyberWardens and having insurance is really, really important.
Fantastic. And can you tell us a bit about what are some of the most common cyber attackers small businesses should be looking out for? Like, what are the things that really should be on their radar?
Yeah, well, number one is inbox break-ins. So your inbox has an enormous amount of really... You can draw me a picture. That would be great. I'm sure everyone would love to see it too. Really, really important information in your inbox. And so that's the technical name for that is called business email compromise, but it is really such an important account for you to be making sure that you protect. Yep, here's a piece of paper, darling. And making sure you keep that safe. Number two, and this is where it starts to get expensive, and it's kind of a follow-on from actually making sure once they're in your inbox, the thing that they can start to do is attack your invoices, either the ones that you have received or the ones that you're sending out to your own suppliers. And so that becomes where it starts to get really expensive for you. And then the third kind of most common crime that we see is banking account burglary. So where they're actually using phishing links and things like that to get into your bank accounts and transferring money out of your account. Okay. Three things to be on the lookout for.
And is it just, I know that some of our members, we've had issues with them, you know, doing things like taking like USB drives from customers to print documents and things like that. And that's obviously a real no-no now. That members should be aware of. And is it usually that cyber attackers are trying to ransom the business? Is that the approach?
Ransomware is really definitely part of the ecosystem of different threats you need to be aware of, but there are lots of different sorts of attacks, from just like sending the fake invoice, right? They might get into your email and send an invoice out to your suppliers and get that business that's, you know, in your supply chain to transfer them $10,000. It doesn't have to be as complicated or scary as something like ransomware can sound like. But definitely it's part of the mix, and that it becomes really complicated then because you're also then locked. When you've got a ransomware attack, you're locked out of your business, and you're locked out of your other important information. So it makes it really complicated to track.
And look, a lot of our members, I mean, they don't hold a lot of client data, but a lot of them might have a relationship with 20 or 30 other small businesses, so they've got some client data, and that they need to be aware of their responsibilities with that information. And yeah, I think the other thing is that a lot of our members, they live off their mobile phones. And so increasingly we're seeing more and more of these sort of text message type scams as well, where people are just really busy. It seems familiar and it's very easy to click on those links. And I know CyberWardens has recently released some new research about the sort of easy habit swaps small businesses can do to protect themselves against cyber threats. What are some of the top habits that put them at risk?
Well, you know, one of the number one things that you can think about to make cybersecurity feel a bit easier is it really is about, building strong safe habits. It's kind of like learning to eat your greens and sort of swapping the, chocolate for some kale. But really, there are really simple things to do to protect your business. One of the most important things, you just listen, is making sure you have up-to-date software. Up-to-date software means that your computer is the most protected it can be, or your iPhone or whatever device you're using. Now, there's a couple of bad habits that get in the way of that. And two of them are ones that I'm guilty of myself. Number one is like you're on a deadline and the snooze alarm comes in. Last time I was doing a webinar, actually, I got one of those software update snoozes in the middle of the webinar. So obviously couldn't press yes in that moment. Making sure you go back and don't ignore that is really, really important. And the second one that gets us is that I don't know about the people on this webinar, but at the end of the day, when I'm logging off, one of the things I do is I just shut my laptop, right? I'm not very good at getting in the habit of going in and shutting down my computer. The trick about shutting down your computer is it actually triggers some of those automatic software updates that keep your device protected. So learning to make these really simple habit switches is actually what makes cybersecurity really simple and really achievable. You don't have to be an IT wizard or Mark Zuckerberg to be able to keep cyber criminals out of your business. You just need to know these kind of 4 basic steps and make sure you don't have any of these bad habits that are getting in the way. So if you go to the CyberWardens website, you can check out that full list of habits and the swaps that we recommend there.
No, terrific. And just before I move over to Holly and take the pressure off you, Tegan, just quickly on the CyberWardens, on the training aspect, sort of what amount of time is involved for a member to actually become a CyberWarden? And do you recommend the business owner do that, or should one of their key staff do that? Or what's the model you recommend?
Really good question, Ben. So it's about 45 minutes to do the program. And that will teach you those 4 key habits around making sure you've got an alarm with multi-factor authentication, making sure you've got up-to-date software, strong passwords, and really critically backups. We kind of have designed the program both for small business owners and their team, because cybersecurity is a team sport, as you can see. It takes, 95% of attacks actually target the people in your business, right? They're not kind of technical hacks where you're jumping in and, you're seeing firewalls break and that sort of technical stuff. It's them sending scam links and phishing links and things like that to your team members. So if you can make 45 minutes for your team members to come and jump on and do the CyberWardens program, it's really simple. It's like friendly small business language. They'll have those skills to be able to, be part of the solution. And one of the things that our new research that's coming out next month is actually going to show is that having a conversation with your team every week or every month about cybersecurity is what's going to keep it top of mind, so that they know to pay attention to those threats that are coming in. We know that cyber criminals really target your team, especially when they're busy. So making sure they're like alert to those attacks in busy times. And that's why definitely, getting everyone to jump on during the whole and do the program. Great.
For all those insights, and great job with your assistant there. Unfortunately, my 18-year-old in the next room, she's not quite as keen to come and help assist me, but done a great job.
Thanks. I'm very sorry the COVID.
Oh, no, look, that's the way of the world these days. It's awesome. Now over to you, Holly. Given the increasing threats, I know Marsh, through our partnership, have really lifted the importance of cyber insurance as a priority for our members the last few years. Can you tell us some more about that and how cyber insurance can benefit a small business, and I guess what types of incidents would it actually typically cover?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for the question. So just to provide a bit of a background on where I sit, so the company I work for, Marsh, we're a global professional firm that specializes in finding risk management strategies for our clients. And so one of these is done via insurance. So essentially, we're the brokers that work with the clients and the insurance market to find tailored insurance solutions. So specifically on cyber insurance, this cover is highly beneficial for small businesses in the face of increasing cyber threats. It really provides financial protection and support in the event of a cyber attack or a data breach. So cyber insurance typically covers incidents such as data breaches, business interruption, cyber extortion, and privacy liability. So it helps cover the costs associated with notifying affected individuals, providing credit monitoring services, managing public relations fallout, loss of income due to business interruption, negotiating and paying a ransom if it was to get to that stage, legal defense costs, settlement, and regulatory fines. So it is a very broad policy and really all-encompassing to really help out the insured in their time of need.
Terrific. Maybe just before I move on to the next question, I might just remind everybody, if you've got any questions, please pop them in the Q&A section at the bottom there, and we'll try and get to those at the end. Now, Holly, I guess the other thing I wanted to understand is, how do insurance companies assess a small business's level of, their risk level for cyber insurance, and what factors can affect their premiums?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So when insurers are assessing a small business for cyber insurance, there's definitely many factors that they consider. So these factors will be, the size and industry of the business, the security measures that they have in place, of course, certain data protection policies, claims history will be one, and also their financial stability. So the size and industry of the business can impact its risk level, while strong security measures and data protection can actually lower the risk. So claims history, as I said, and financial stability will also play a role. But when we're looking at what factors can affect the premium, definitely a business that can demonstrate strong cybersecurity measures will often receive lower premiums.
And just on that, how do you assess that? Do you, like in the policy, like in the application process, do you ask them questions about that? Or are they expected to have like a detailed policy in the business that they can share with you?
Yeah, so there'll be certain questions around what controls that they have in place. So multi-factor authentication, vulnerability scanning, how fast do they do upgrades of their systems, as Tegan was saying. There's certain questions that they'll ask them around the controls, and they'll have kind of the minimum standards that they want to see.
Okay, fantastic. And can you walk us through, like, if there was a claim, what's the process in the event of a cyber attack? What steps should the small business take to ensure they're adequately prepared to file a claim?
Yeah, and this is where the cyber insurance policy really responds, as what to do in the event of a claim. So the beauty of a cyber policy is just to remove all worry and doubt about how to respond. As we know, most of us aren't as technology savvy. We wouldn't even know where to start if we thought we had a cyber incident. So all policies actually come with an incident response hotline, which is 24/7. So insureds are encouraged to call that number in the event of an actual, even a suspected cyber breach. They're there to help you through any process. So the call itself will be triaged by the incident response team. They'll ask you the basic questions of, what the company name is, what the policy number is, and a brief description of the event or what you've found or what you're feeling it might be a cyber breach for you. So from there, a team of panel providers, so these will be like IT forensics, it might be legal, it might be PR. So they'll all be engaged to assist you to mitigate the incident and really guide you through that process to make sure that you get back up and running, and make sure any costs that you're incurred are financially reimbursed as well. One key thing that I always say, and it does seem so trivial, but I would always recommend having the policy wording printed out, in the event that you're unable to access your system, just having that there, having the phone number there, having the policy number, I think is just a really good habit to be in. And saying that there is some insurers that have apps, everybody has apps, but some insurers will have apps that you can download onto your phone and that you can also make a claim through there.
So that's a really good point. I've never really thought about that, because I know when I've done insurance claims, you always go back through your emails and find the policy and so on. I guess that's not always possible. So that's a really good
cybersecurity space generally, Ben, is that we really encourage people to have a printed copy of their response and recovery plan, because if you are locked out of your device, you want to know, like, Holly's number, so you know who you're calling for insurance. You want to know your IT company's phone number, like who are those people that are going to help you in that emergency, and having that in the top drawer at home and at the workplace is definitely something you need to be thinking about when you might be locked out of all your devices.
Yeah, no, terrific. And probably the last thing I was going to ask there, Holly, is like, I know there's some like federal government websites and so on where you can like log cyber scams and things that have occurred. Does the insurance company, as part of the claims policy or procedure, if you like, do they assist the insured with like actually notifying the authorities?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if there's a data breach or a privacy breach, there's certain notifications that you will need to make. And so the policy does cover that. And there is a team of legal experts that will guide you through that process. Absolutely. And can make that notification on your behalf.
Oh, that's great. And now, for a small business who actually implements a strong cybersecurity procedure, if you like Tegan's talked about, will that impact your premiums? Will you pay less for a cybersecurity premium if you've got everything in place? And are there incentives, I guess, for the small businesses to improve their cyber hygiene?
Yeah. And this question I do get asked quite frequently. We're all very conscious of premiums that we do pay. So absolutely, businesses that have strong cybersecurity controls will always be viewed positively. And those controls will work hand in hand to minimize the likelihood of an incident or how fast the business will actually be able to get back up and running, because that's another huge factor as well. We want to make sure that, the business is able to operate, you're able to still, receive income and continue business as usual. There are other factors that do contribute to premium rating, and that will be certain industries. Certain industries are just higher risk than others, the company size, and also previous claims as well. So there are minimum controls that I said before that underwriters do like to see, and I did mention multi-factor authentication. So what they want to see is that multi-factor authentication is on all remote access. We saw in COVID time, there was a huge spike in ransomware attacks that really took advantage of not having multi-factor authentication on people being able to remote access into the systems. So we find that businesses actually, if they don't have this in place, that will be one of the first questions that we see on like a cyber proposal form. If we don't see that in place, insurers will decline to provide cover.
Okay.
Although I will caveat that, and I think I mentioned this earlier to you, Ben, as well, is that we do see certain insurers that will write cyber policies for SMEs or kind of the micro SMEs with minimal controls in place, or I doubt to say it, but no controls in place. It's more of a numbers game, kind of taking the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we will see if they're under, say, a 50 mil turnover, that we can get cyber insurance policies for them. So it doesn't mean that it's unattainable. It would be good for your businesses to have certain controls in place, but there are certain ways that we can get cyber insurance policies to get you covered.
That multi-factor authentication, it really is one of the most powerful things you can do, and definitely making sure it's on your email, but any other really important system. Like we say, go through and make sure it's on all your financial accounts, make sure it's on any business account that you're using. We've got a checklist on the website as well. It's that second step of just getting that code. It can feel a bit frustrating, but it is, we kind of call it an alarm system, because if you start getting that code come to your phone, it means someone's probably trying to break into your email account. So it's a really, not only does it protect your account, but it can be a really good warning sign that something's going wrong and you need to, dive a bit deeper into your security, and it helps with the insurance piece.
Yeah.
No, that's terrific. Now, I've just got one question left, so I'll just quickly remind anybody who's logged on with us, just if you want any questions, just pop them in the Q&A there. So the last one I had for you, Holly, is like, with the landscape of cyber threats constantly evolving, how do insurance policies adapt to the new types of cyber attacks? And I guess what should small businesses be aware of when renewing their policies?
Yeah. So cyber insurance policies are really broad in the way that they're written. So they are actually designed to adapt to new type of cyber threats as the landscape evolves. Insurance companies invest heavily and work closely with cybersecurity experts to make sure that they do stay up to date on emerging threats to ensure that the policy is, adequate and providing adequate coverage, for the insureds. One key thing when you are going through your renewal process, just make sure that you're reviewing any specific policy endorsements that are applied and making sure that you are actually understanding them. Are they excluding certain things that you're doing? And then also if there's any sublimits against certain coverage as well. If they're reducing coverages for certain type of claims, it might be that transfer fraud that Tegan was mentioning on invoicing. We do see that sublimited, but how heavily is it sublimited?
No, that's terrific. And I guess the last thing I was going to ask you on that space is when we first started looking at cybersecurity as an issue and the policies that our members might be able to utilize, even though they were sort of aimed at SMEs, they sort of talked about your IT department and things like that, which, most small business owners don't have an IT department unless they've got a son or daughter who happens to be studying IT. Have the policies evolved a bit in the last couple of years, and are they becoming more tailored to those micro small businesses, the mum and dad type businesses who've maybe only got, 1 to 3 employees?
Oh, very much. So, and that's another thing with the cyber insurance policies that we're seeing targeted at SME. They have a lot of pre-loss services, what we call them. So when you purchase the policy, what they will offer you is they'll have, like phishing exercises that you can roll out. They'll have dark web scanning that they'll do for you to make sure that, if there was any inkling that anything was spoken about your business or about, any data that you have. They've also got Ask Guru help. So like you were saying, some businesses don't have an IT department, but you've got this little question that you don't know who to turn to. You don't want to go looking through the white pages to find somebody to answer it. You can go to the app or go to the insurer and ask them about, hey, I've got this scenario, or this is the IT that I'm using. Is this appropriate? And there is guidance there. I think the cyber insurance industry is really heavily invested into stopping a claim to happen, and there's small things like Tegan was saying that you can do for your security that really eliminates a lot of the risk. So if the insurer can help out with that, it's in their interest as well, but it's also so helpful to SMEs, it's just the education. Some people just don't have an understanding of it, and the cyber insurance policy is really encompassing to help them out.
No, that's terrific. That's really great actually to hear that there's sort of all that sort of preventative and sort of education focused aspects of the support that you get through Marsh. That's terrific. So I think we must have answered everybody's questions because we haven't got anything in the Q&A there. We've just got a minute or two left. So I was just going to let everybody know that if you want to jump on and enroll in the CyberWardens program, it is basically cyberwardens.co/enroll-ALNA. Have I got that right, Tegan? So what we will do is we'll also in the newsletter article for today, we'll have all of the links for you for CyberWardens in there, as well as a QR code for you to access the CyberWardens program, and those will also be linked in the video content as well. So please, have a look at cyberwardens.co/enroll-ALNA, and we'd love to have you have a look through the program. It's a terrific initiative, both through COSBOA, some of the supporting partners like CommBank, and of course the federal government, and the program's funded and will run for the next 3 years. So it's a wonderful opportunity for members to not only get up to speed now, but continue to develop your skills through that program, and also through all the support.
If I can make one more plug, Ben.
Yep.
That was the one thing, is that right now we do have that base level course. Over the next 12 to 18 months, we're building out 8 additional courses so that this one gives you that really strong introduction. But once you're in the ecosystem, we'll be giving you more knowledge to help build up your team and make sure that they can help you, spot the scams and things like that. So make sure you do keep coming back to the program as well.
No, terrific. And we'll certainly be having regular updates on CyberWardens in both our newsletter and also on our website. So I encourage members to look out for those. And of course, with Marsh Insurance, with Holly and the rest of the team that look after our members now, Rebecca and Debbie, please, if you're interested in getting a quote for cyber insurance or having a look at it, you can get in touch with any of our ALNA GMs in any of the states, and they'll certainly put you in touch with the team at Marsh to have a conversation about that. So thanks again, and thanks in particular, Tegan, for surviving. You did a great job. It's awesome. Modern Parenting 101. So good job, and I really appreciate the both of you making the time to have a chat today. I've certainly learned a lot through the conversation, and hopefully you might join us again, and we can dig a little bit deeper into some of the other aspects of this really important and growing issue. And thank you again.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having us, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.